Hi guys, Steve Blackard here again, and with another antique rifle to show you. This is a Springfield Spencer model 1871 rifle, and it's kind of an unusual one. For those of you who are familiar with antique rifles of the, especially the Civil War era, you know that the federal government contracted for many thousands of Spencer repeating carbines. They're probably the most advanced cartridge repeating guns of the war. Well, after the war was over, they had a glut of these carbines surplus, and they put into storage. Well, Springfield Armory was very busy trying to keep their men busy, is what they're trying to do. They didn't have much work. They had all the surplus of guns. They had a very skilled workforce, and they didn't have a lot of work for them to do. And this is one of the things that they came up to build, and speculation somewhat on my part is they kind of came up with this as a way to keep their skilled workforce employed. They didn't want to lose them. So they had all these Spencer carbines in stock. So what they did is they made about a little over 1,100 of these rifles, and they took model 1865 Spencer carbines made by Burnside, and they converted them to a rifle configuration. They used the stock. The butt stock is the same because that's got the magazine tube in it, but the barrel is the same as that barrel used on the model 1868 Springfield trapdoor rifle. The forestock was from another rifle project. I think it was one of the Navy rifles they were working on. It was excess forends that they used for that. The ramrod, or I should say cleaning rod, is 1868 trapdoor, as are the sights too. So it was kind of put together from parts. And like I say, I think they were really looking to use up what they had to keep their workforce employed. Now, one of the unusual things of this is, if you notice, the cleaning rod comes a little bit short of the muzzle, about 2 inches short. Well, that was because it has the stop for the cleaning rod has to mate with this forend. And the way it was laid out, they had to use it that way. So the cleaning rod is actually about 2 inches short for the length of the barrel. Kind of odd, because Springfield normally didn't cut corners. They did everything first class, but I think in this case they were just really trying to use up their stock of parts. Another thing unusual, first, this was ostensibly chambered in the 5650 Spencer cartridge, which is what the carbine used. It became the standard of the carbine load after the war. But unusually, when I first got this rifle, well, one, I put a centerfire breech block in it so I could make cartridges for it. And then I started measuring the chamber, and I found out that the cartridge that it actually cycles in this is a little bit longer than the standard 5650 Spencer. The standard length Spencer cartridge just would not cycle in this. Now, the original cartridge used a pointed bullet because it was a rimfire. The cartridge in centerfire, because they'd be dangerous to use a pointed bullet in those, I use a flat pointed bullet. And that somewhat contributes to them being a little more finicky about the cartridge length and how smooth they cycle. But I found out this cartridge, this rifle is very finicky on having the proper overall length to cycle properly. And once I determined the overall length that worked with it, I did some looking around, and I realized that cartridge and this cartridge that fits it is actually identical to the 50-45 Navy carbine cartridge. Exact same length. So kind of coincidental that it's the exact same cartridge used in the 50-45 Navy carbine. Coincidental? I don't know. I suspect that Springfield already had the standard for those chamber reamers, and they wanted to be able to use the same ammunition. Although this was rimfire, but maybe they were anticipating making a centerfire version at some point. So anyway, it's a little bit longer than the standard 5650 cartridge. It holds a little bit more powder. This holds 45 grains of black powder, so it's a little bit unusual. But it's a neat rifle. Unlike the actual rifles, during the Civil War, they made a lot of carbines, but they did make some rifles also. But the Civil War era rifles were 3 bands. They had 3 bands, where these only had 2 bands. So these are readily identified as the only Spencer rifles made with 2 bands. So it's an unusual piece. This one has a very nice bore. I've shot it a bit. It's been a while since I've had it out, so I thought I would bring it out and do a little video for you and show you how it works. So let's go over here and we'll load it up. So I've got 5 cartridges here. Let me put my shooting glasses on. So this loads through the buttstock. It has a spring-loaded tube that comes out of the butt, and the magazine holds 7 rounds. I'm just going to load 5 today. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the spring-loaded plunger tube goes back in and locks in place. Now for each shot, I have to individually, or have to cock it after each shot. It doesn't automatically, it's not self-cocking. So, all right, so here we go. That's 1. 2. 4. So 5 shots. You can see how quickly I got those off, and I'm not a trained rifleman at all with this. The standard Springfield muzzleloading musket during the war, a well-trained soldier could get off maybe 3 shots a minute, assuming somebody's not shooting at him. Well, you can see a well-trained rifleman could empty this magazine in 30 seconds of 7 rounds easily, and they would also had it was called a Blakesley box, which carried additional magazine tubes full of cartridges. So the technology of this was amazing, and brought tremendous firepower to the soldiers. But I tell you, this one was not very popular. It was not issued to the troops. To my understanding, it was not issued after they made this 1,100 of them. They were put in storage for a while. They did some trials with it, but they found it was very heavy because the receiver is machined from a solid block of metal. So it makes this quite heavy for its size. So it wasn't particularly popular, particularly with infantrymen would be marching carrying this thing. An extra pound or 2 adds up very quickly. So most of these were sold overseas to France during the Franco-Prussian War. They were really short on weapons, so these were sold over there, and then eventually some of them made their way back here to the U.S. And I picked this one up, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and I've had a lot of fun with it. But it's a unique piece. Spencer carbines are quite common, both reproduction and originals. But these Model 1871s are quite a rare bird, so it's kind of a neat one to play with. So, but it still works like a champ, shoots really good. I've got some really good groups with this at 50 yards, which is about the limit of my eyesight with the original barrel sights. But it's a lot of fun to shoot. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you got any questions. I'll post this up shortly. Thanks for watching.